Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well today. This is a video of common tourist traps to avoid falling into. So you probably do know some of these already. I'm going to be using Istanbul as an example as I was recently there, but this is not to say that similar things don't happen in other places. It's also not to say that everyone in Istanbul is going to try and scam you. It's a lovely city. It's probably like anywhere in the world. There's always going to be good people and bad people. So this is not in any way meant to cause offense to anyone from Istanbul or from Turkey in general. So, as I said, I was just there recently. If you want to see some photos or reviews, do get in touch through my Facebook. Just search Travel with Howard and you'll find it there. And as always, please do like and subscribe to this video also. So here are some of the things that I wish I had been a little bit more prepared for. So I'll skip through some of the common scams. You can read about them yourself. As they're pretty well known and easy to spot if you're being roped into. This was one that did actually happen to me out, and it was outside the Blue Mosque, but it's like the person here says, the best way to avoid it is just say you have no money, as if you have no money, they'll have no motivation to try and sell you things. So avoid maybe hovering around looking like you're lost in areas, because that seems to attract these people a little bit more. And yeah, it's like they said, there's no coincidence that, oh, my brother has this shop, it's really good, and they'll take you there and you'll see that the prices, whilst they might not be extortionate, are probably way more than, say, what a local would get charged. And that actually brings me on to my next point. So it seems to be, at least I found, like one set of prices for tourists and one for local people. I found this in quite a few places. And whilst you may not begrudge paying a little extra if the service is good and you're from a high income country, there's still a few things to avoid extortion. So I'll go into a few of them here. Um, so if you don't know that currency is lira, when you see it written on a menu or in a shop, it'll normally say TL, or sometimes I think it's TRL or a little T sign. So always make sure you're being charged in lira. I found it wasn't generally the best value to be charged in US dollars or euros, although most hotels will put their price in euro. You will always know before you pay what the price in euro is. And then if you want to pay in lira or whatever other currency, then you will be able to do that and the rate will be told to you before you are charged so that you can decide. So often what you'll find in other countries, so especially those with high inflation, is that they will use euros and US dollars, especially in the tourist areas, as a kind of unofficial currency. But just make sure to say, for example, at the moment, I believe one US dollar is around 32 lira. So if you're paying for something, you want to be sure before you pay whether you're being charged in US dollars or lira, as there's a big difference there. It's not so much like £1 is $1.20 or something like that. Restaurants, I would suggest read reviews before you travel, as some, especially in the tourist areas, are quite overpriced tourist traps. And it seemed when I was there anyway that some restaurants would put a tax or a service charge on the bill without actually asking you if that's okay. If it's not an extortionate amount, I would just pay it. Or if you're paying cash, I would always recommend just take out the money that you think you'll need. And it's just safer that way. Have maybe a backup, or if you, especially if you're away from your hotel, but just don't take everything out at once. So Yeah, sometimes these things can happen, like it turned into from 150 to 350. Um, a good other tip to avoid this is know roughly what the price of things should be before you go. As inflation is pretty high at the moment in Turkey, it's quite hard because if you Google it, you might be looking at an out-of-date site and find that actually prices have legitimately gone up since that was written. So if you're researching online, make sure you check the date of when the person wrote those prices there. But another way is even when you're there, just look around in, say, a place that a mixture of local people and foreigners go to and just get an average price that way. Or even just ask your hotel receptionist or tour guide if you have one. I'm sure they'd be happy to tell you like a rough price for something. So that's one there. I think taking photos of the menu is a little bit extreme, especially if it's one of the places where the menu is on the front, like here. But if you wanted to as an extra level of protection, then that's also something that you might want to do. And checking the Google or whatever TripAdvisor reviews also. If a lot of people have said the bill was inflated, then that's probably a warning sign. And whatever you do, never go somewhere or agree to buy something until you've been told the price. Just never do it. Um, and yeah, if you do get offered extra things in your restaurant, often if it's required, I think they will sometimes give you like the P-Day bread for free. But always check that it is actually free before you eat it. Um, yeah. I didn't buy ice cream, so I didn't get aware of that one. But I think the usual rules apply. And yeah, this person saying, yeah. So if you do know someone who's local or speaks the language, then it's probably better to go with them. Personally, I wouldn't find 10 lira bad for a bottle of water, but as I said, I don't know when this was written, so it may have been an inflated price at the time. I think inflation is around 60% right now. So yes, and in the Grand Bazaar, I imagine that happens more as you don't normally see prices displayed. Sometimes they're written very small. Personally, I didn't see a lot of card machines in hotels and the more expensive restaurants, they would have them, but in places that locals go, like the markets and things, actually, yeah, they do sometimes have, you sometimes have to ask for it though. Um, but for small things especially, it's probably better just to have cash, as I said. And that way you know how much you're spending as well. So here we see the currency scam. So like make sure if it's 3,000 lira, it's definitely lira before they tap it, before you hand the card over, before you put the pin in, anything like that. Kind of the same in taxis, agree the price before or make sure they have the meter on. And yeah, that's the best way to do it. I don't really know any other way. Um, Personally, I'm quite happy to round up as a tip. So say like this one here, if it is 75, I probably would just give them a 100 and leave it at that. So, um, but if you choose not to, then it's best to have some smaller denominations of notes as well, so you don't end up with a situation of the other person telling you they don't have change. And taxis, I think it is best to use cash as well and have the address written down or at least show it on your phone if you're able to. Um, I would recommend getting an eSIM if you're able to as well. I wasn't able to personally as my phone isn't ready for it yet. But if you do have a newer phone, I'll put a link down below for you to be able to do that also. And yeah, as they said, if you don't have this app, I didn't have it, but just Google or ask someone what the rough price should be. So for a short journey, it really shouldn't be that much, like 100, 200 lira. But obviously for longer trips, such as the airport, then just do some research and agree a price beforehand. I think that's pretty much all of the tips that I have. Again, this isn't specific to Istanbul. You probably could use this advice in some other places as well. Again, be careful of pickpockets. It is a place where you should have a photocopy of your passport with you, just if you are asked for it as well. And for tours and things like that, I normally use Viator for my own tours. I'm also a travel agent for them. So if you want any advice about booking, it's quite handy because it's prepaid. You either pay when you book or I think 2 days before. And besides any optional extras like drinks and tips, everything is already paid for. You get a mobile or printed ticket, and your tour guide also has your WhatsApp details. And if they message you, you've also got theirs in case of any issues. And you know before where you're going, or if they'll meet you at your hotel. Often tours will pick you up at your hotel as well. So yeah, don't just buy from a local, as they say here as well. Um, and yes, this is true if a tour guide in Istanbul is genuine. They do actually need quite a lot of training for that in terms of, I suppose it's learning about the city and also having sufficient English or possibly some other languages as well, training. So it's not like anyone can just say, so they should have a license, as they said, or if you go through a reputable travel agency, they'll be able to help you there. So again, as you see, it is a beautiful city with some beautiful things that are nice to look at, but just think twice before you do actually buy anything there. I hope you found my travel tips useful, and as always, please do like and subscribe, and I'll be back soon with another video.